Okay, so this Joe Rogan situation is really exploding right now. It's hard to explain just how massive this Joe Rogan story is at this point. It feels like now it's just a dominant story, period, in news, and everybody's talking about Joe Rogan now. And it's because the right wing has deemed him as their messiah. He is the Jesus Christ figure. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just go to Twitter, type in Joe Rogan, and there will be countless tweets from check marks and various people with like 20,000, 100,000 favorites or whatever, just, praising him as a Jesus Christ figure, essentially. So, quite literally, that's what they have decided to do with Joe Rogan. But now what's going on is more and more people on Spotify, big artists like Neil Young, threatening to pull their work and actually doing so without if they don't take away Joe Rogan from the platform, for his various COVID misinformation. But now at this point, it's actually continued to grow from that. And now what's happening is people are digging up more and more of Joe Rogan's old clips and using it against him. And so, if you guys actually remember, Alex Jones was the one who first dropped the video of him talking about he basically talked about being in like a black neighborhood and describing it as like Planet of the Apes. And he also had a weird comment where he talked about like mating between a black person and a white person. I don't know if it was like a black male and like white female or something, but he's something like that. He's talking about, the black body and the white brain or something like that. Basically saying, that's obviously very, kind of racist in and of itself, obviously, the white brain, and it's obviously the idea that, the black brain is inferior. And so that kind of thing. He was actually the first one to drop it in that big spat that they had back in 2019, I think it was. So he was actually the one to first drop that. So, without Alex Jones, I don't know if we see those clips today. And Joe Rogan went full beta male, of course. He brought Alex Jones back on his show after, he showed Joe Rogan's stepdaughter and used her against him and all of that stuff. So, big beta male move on Joe Rogan's part on that one. But now there's a bunch of videos of him using racial slurs that are spreading. The videos appear to be older, and I guess they're in the context of him using them as a quote, not using them in terms of like denigrating someone or in that form. So it says Joe Rogan apologizes after a compilation of him using racial slur spreads. Joe Rogan issued an apology on Instagram Saturday after a compilation of the podcaster frequently using the N-word in his podcast spread widely on social media. Rogan used the word more than 20 times in the clips from different podcast episodes, which he said were compiled over a span of 12 years. In his apology, Rogan said it's the most regretful and shameful thing he has ever had to address publicly. I know that to most people there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that, never mind publicly on a podcast, and I agree with that. Now, I haven't said it in years, Rogan added. Rogan also addressed a video of him comparing a black neighborhood to a Planet of the Apes movie. I certainly would never want to offend someone for entertainment with something as stupid as racism, he said. Now, Spotify, one of the biggest streaming services in the world, is under intense pressure because it is the exclusive distributor of Rogan's popular show. A Spotify representative declined to comment on whether it will take any action against Rogan, but a person familiar with the matter told CNN Business that the company has been having conversations with Rogan's team about concerns with some of his past episodes. On Friday, it appeared that Spotify had removed more than 70 episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast, according to the tracking site jremissing.com. So I did a separate video on that. You can check it out. I guess maybe it's in concert with what's going on with all of this controversy. I didn't really see how, because of the various diversity of the episodes and the guests on there, but maybe it does have some kind of I guess it would have to kind of have some connection, but it's just hard to see it given all of the differences between the guests that were on there. It says, in fact, Rogan decided to remove certain past episodes in concert with his apology, the source said. Singer-songwriter India Ari is among a number of musical artists who recently asked their music to be removed from Spotify after COVID-19 misinformation was aired on Rogan's show and posted the compilation of Rogan using the N-word on her Instagram account. The Grammy Award winner said that while she empathized with artists who asked for their content to be taken off due to COVID-19 misinformation, her protest also about his language around race. Rogan shouldn't even be uttering the word, Ari said. Don't even say it under any context. Don't say it. That's where I stand. I have always stood there. used the delete Spotify hashtag to her almost 1 million followers on Instagram. They take this money that's built from streaming and they pay this guy 100 million, but they pay us like 0.003% of a penny. Just take me off. I don't want to generate money that pays that. So it seems that Spotify's payout rate is like one of the lowest of all of them, and so that's one of the reasons. Like Anthony Fantano did a culmination video of why he's canceling Spotify. One of the reasons was because the payout rates for musicians was trash, and so it's kind of become like maybe like an iceberg kind of straw on camel's back situation. But here's the thing, though. So you've obviously got these different things that are being resurfaced from his past. And so the thing about this kind of thing where you're digging up past videos of him or comments and stuff like that, you can do this kind of thing with absolutely anybody. And so I guess the context of his usage of the word is to use it in quotes and stuff like that, in quoting people. He's not using it in a denigrating way. Now, the racist comments he made about Planet of the Apes and the weird like white brain, black body thing was obviously very racist comments. But I can promise you that you can do this kind of thing for any public figure that you can think of, any and all of them. Quite literally using the word, or doesn't necessarily have to be racist against black people. It could be homophobic, like Joanne Reed had those homophobic tweets in the past. There's now videos of Joe Biden saying the N-word going around, right? Remember Joe Biden's racist comment about Barack Obama? He's the first like clean black guy to run for president, right? So you can find this kind of thing from anybody, and so I actually don't support this like digging up of 10-year-old videos, 20-year-old videos or whatever of stuff like this and then using it against them. I'm not in support of this because this can be done against literally anybody. I'm telling you, anybody, you'll find that kind of thing, especially as different views and things like that become changed and certain things are more acceptable. And so I'll see tweets of people using language that was deemed like all right like 10, 20 years ago. And it's being held to the standard of today, which just simply doesn't make sense. So I'm not in favor of this personally because I think it doesn't make sense, because you can do this with anybody you can think of, spare maybe a few, but pretty much any public figure you can think of, N-word, homophobic tweets, or maybe racist tweets against brown people, or just any of that kind of thing. You'll find something. And so what are you going to do? Just cancel literally everything? I just don't see how that really makes sense. Now, the COVID vaccine and the COVID-19 misinformation makes sense because it's very present, and obviously that's something that's not a past thing. It's something that's going on right now, and it's obviously life and death, and it's extremely damaging, right? And so Spotify is obviously forcing Joe Rogan to make this apology here. But it's all becoming this huge snowball effect that I think is just really bad for Spotify. I don't know how this could be worth it, how monetarily this could be worth it for Spotify because of the cancellations. Are the cancellations being, outnumbered by, I don't know, purchases or something like that? I don't know what kind of internal mathematics is going on there in their business department to see, the crunching the numbers. But there's so many artists pulling their stuff. There's so many people who are pulling their stuff. And so again, Joe Rogan he's the number one enemy. Again, largely because of what the Republicans have done in making him the Messiah. And so now everyone's just trying to pull every little shit that they can on Joe Rogan. And so I guess there was even some joke he made about like a disabled child not like having questions about Noah's Ark back in 2006. Again, like stuff that was deemed acceptable at the time is now obviously considered unacceptable, but you're holding something in the past to the standard of today, which I don't support, because again, you can do this to quite literally anybody that you want, any public figure, the President of the United States, Justin Trudeau doing like he didn't even just do black face. He did a full black body and he's doing just fine. And so anybody you can think of is going to have this kind of stuff in the past. And so what are you going to do? Cancel everybody on the planet? I don't think that makes any sense. So I'm not in support of this person. I think it's stupid. But, obviously the COVID vaccine misinformation and calling him out, maybe for past comments is okay. Canceling him for it, I think, is not. If you want to criticize him, maybe. But considering that the comments were so long ago and like the N-word stuff is just, my understanding is the context simply is not in the context of him using it to denigrate somebody. It's more quoting somebody. Now, I am not somebody who's in favor of using the N-word period, even in a quote, the hard R N-word in any way, shape, or form. But, I would say even 6, 7 years ago it was considered like acceptable. 10 years ago is acceptable to use that in quotes. Now it's not really acceptable. And so again, to hold people to the standard of today for comments made a long time ago, I just don't see how that makes any sense. Personally, it doesn't. And so JRE Missing has these different episode numbers that were taken down. Kyle Kalinske, one of his being taken down. Theo Vaughn had multiple episodes taken down. Michael Malice, Gad Sad, what's his name? Russell Peters, TJ Kirk. And so whether or not this is in connection with all of the shit that's going on right now, it's not entirely clear, but I just don't see how it could be, simply for the fact that there's not really any line to be drawn here. Some of these people I don't even know, like Tim Ferriss, Ian Edwards, Sam Sheridan. I don't know any of those guys, so I'm just not really sure. It could be in connection, but I personally can't really see it. What's going to happen with this? Ultimately, I don't know. I think Spotify at this point is probably going to stand with Joe Rogan unless it really grows big enough. But at this point, I feel like they're so entrenched that I don't know how you really get out of this. I mean, I feel like at this point it's kind of a dig deeper, or, I don't know, because it's getting so big, it might be beneficial for them to give it up. So I don't know what they're going to do. It could go either way because they're so deep in. It might be like we just have to, dig our feet in the sand. But also at the same time, it's growing so much. This can really impact your business, dude, like a lot. And so at the end of the day, they're going to do whatever's good for their business in the short term. And so we're going to have to see, how they make their decision. But I'm curious to see what ends up happening. And Joe Rogan being called out and threatened and stuff by artists, Spotify being threatened by artists taking their stuff down. Everything is being dug up against him, which I'm not in support of. I think this weird dig up culture of looking up stuff from, literally we're talking about stuff from like 16 years ago, which is that's like a whole different world, dude. Like Hollywood Video was the main way to get your videos back then. They don't exist anymore. Okay, Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore. So that's stupid. But the COVID misinformation calling out is obviously legit. Whether or not I support Joe Rogan being removed from the platform, I'm not sure if I would go that far. Just because it's such a huge platform and it would set a precedent for free speech measures in terms of the spirit of freedom of expression on private platforms. Not the freedom of expression concept that exists in the Constitution, obviously, because it's not the government, but still freedom of speech is still sometimes very important, even when it's not, the government. So a lot of stuff going on here, and I don't expect this to stop. It's going to only ramp up from here.